Happy New Year, YouTube Learning Channel comrades. I'm back. I've been away traveling, actually, and that's why this presentation here is titled Globetrotting Post-Pandemic. I was scheduled to go to Peru prior to the pandemic hitting in 2019. And of course, they had a real problem in Peru, and then they had a coup in Peru. So in terms of the world, where to go next? Because I wasn't going where they're having a coup. Some people who went to Peru and you wanted to go see Machu Picchu, you have to go to Cusco to go there. A train, long travel, and then basically some people who went there when they had the coup, all that shut down. People got stuck. So the issue is now where to go. So I'm going to share in this presentation some of my travels in 2023. So it's really a review of what I've already done. But I want to take you along with me to let you know how the world perceives us. Because the media and the military industrial complex has a whole different perspective on how the world should be run. But the people, just the people themselves, are beautiful. So I want to share that with you. So as I'm traveling throughout the world, I'm going to give you a Black African conscious twist to studying and looking at what's going on in the world. So I like this little picture here as I'm coming out of the water and rising towards mental liberation. You can't be liberated if you don't know that you're enslaved. You can't be liberated if you don't know what's really going on with you. So now it's a matter of when you travel, you start to see what's going on in other people's cultural experiences. So I've traveled to South America, Central America, Caribbean islands, Africa, and Asia. Specific places I've gone: went to Salvador Bahia in Brazil, went to Cali, Colombia, I went to Placencia in Belize, went to Puerto Vallarta in Mexico, went to Montego Bay in Jamaica, went to Nassau, Bahamas, visited Dar es Salaam in Tanzania, and also Zanzibar, and then went to Bangkok and Pattaya in Thailand, and then went to Saigon and visited Dong Thap in Vietnam. So those were my trips. So that's why you haven't seen or heard much from me, but let me see if I can travel through those places quickly with you so you can get a feel for maybe you traveling to these places at some point. Prior to me going, I was concluding my semester and I attended a presentation at Florida A&M, and there was a fantastic student named Ethel who was from Uganda. And I thought it was just interesting because I know about remember that movie, The Last King of Scotland, about Idi Amin, that Forrest Whitaker starred in, talking about Idi Amin, who's from Uganda, when they gained independence from the British. So here you have a Ugandan student at an HBCU studying the impact of cultural misorientation and colonial mentality on mental well-being in the African-American young adult population. Thought this is beautiful because here she is coming from a place that was colonized. Here we in America are also colonized. So we have to look at the cultural misorientation while we really don't relate to one another sometimes. So hadn't been to Central Africa before, but here we have a sister from Central Africa doing some studies. So here's a picture of Brazil, beautiful Brazil. If there was another place to live on the planet, yes, I would desire to be in a place like Brazil. Beautiful people, beautiful place, beautiful environment. And this is in Salvador Bahia. So you see the beautiful sun setting, you see that beautiful rainbow. Beautiful. So while in Brazil, and I've already done a trip on Brazil, I showed you that in one of my other presentations when I took students there. But this is a picture or a statue of Zumbi. Zumbi was very important for the independence of those Africans that were extracted from Africa and taken to Brazil. Zumbi, back in the 1600s, helped to, when you hear about the Quilombos, they took the people up into the hillsides and mountains away from the colonizer and established our own environments. And so Zumbi is a person that the Brazilians acknowledge, and here's a statue of Zumbi in Pelourinho there in Salvador. So they actually have an African Independence Day, and it's focused on Zumbi helping out to establish a independent African or independent Black controlled state there in Brazil. Considering the history of Brazil and the dynamics of people being extracted, this is the archives, public archives. And this was a fascinating experience because my good friend Jorge X is now the director of this archive. Here on the right side there, you see all the documents there being handled and managed. But in this facility are all the documents containing the information about the family lines and the people. And Brother Jorge is now trying to create a situation where people can now look at their family lines and now create that connection going back to Africa. Most of the people taken there from that region in Brazil were coming from like the Congo area. So this is a very important project, and it's just interesting to see the detail that has been given to document the families, and we don't really do that here too much in America. Uh, this is just showing the level of writing that the Europeans were doing to keep tabs on people and places and things. And now this archive is a way we can go. They can go back in history, look at family lines. And these are my students that were visiting the archives. Then I traveled to Jamaica, went to Montego Bay, try to get some sun and some beautiful vibes from the Jamaican people. So I went to Montego Bay. And part of my reality to go there was to walk in the footsteps of Walter Rodney, who wrote How Europe Underdeveloped Africa. I've gone over him before. So I'm looking at the trail and the path that he had gone because he was part of the rebellions that happened back in '68. So they call it the Rodney Rebellions. So Walter Rodney was there in Jamaica back in the day. They kicked him out. And then while I was there, just got a chance to go visit Usain Bolt's restaurant called Tracks and Records. And we know what has happened with him. People he so-called trust, stole his money. And it's now 2024. I don't believe he's gotten his money back yet. Still working on it, but went to the restaurant to support the brothers' efforts to do right. So Usain Bolt, Jamaica. Let's look at, again, taking care of ourselves, not exploiting ourselves. Then I went to Belize. Took a big plane to get to Belize City, but then we took a little crop plane to get to Placencia. This is traveling over the landmass, and you see the rivers, but looking behind here, it was hot. So you had pretty much forest fires, or just so the sun would be so intense, it would just create fires here and there. So that's what's going on with the smoke. It's so hot there and so dry. Forest fires can develop real quickly. While in Belize, went to Zunantanich, a archaeological reserve that had gigantic monuments of what we had built in the past. And this is in Belize, as high as I was on some of these monuments. I could look over and see Guatemala, a whole other country. So here at the top of this large structure is where I'm standing right here, looking over the land. There are structures here, structures there, over here, and I'm on the biggest one right here. Whew. I don't like heights. Just to climb that thing with no rails up there, whew, you have to be adventurous. So Zunantanich had some beautiful images. Amazing. Just to look at all the rocks needed to build that in the middle of the jungle. Again, some of these things have been found years later. And now here we are looking at it cleared out for us to be visiting. While I was there, I was staying at a Airbnb, and I found this book, A History of Belize in 13 chapters. For those who know me, Clue Seeker, 13 is my lucky number. Really think things happen when I see 13. And here, this book Found it amazing. It's really talking about the history of those people in that land. Because you got the Mestizos, you got the Spanish, you got the African Garifuna people. We got all this mixture, and they all get along very well. We were treated so graciously while there. Look at the chapters. The Spanish invasion of Mayaland, establishing British Dominion, a colonial slave society, expanding and peopling the territory, capitalism and underdevelopment. The cultural logic of imperialism, resistance, struggle, and change. So I was looking at these titles and looking at the commonality of things that go on from our African American perspective, or African perspective, just looking at the world from what Walter Rodney did. See that chapter called Capitalism and Underdevelopment? Well, Walter Rodney wrote how Europe undeveloped Africa, talking about capitalism. So in that book, I just found some very interesting things, and the author is Assad Shoman. One part of the book in the introduction. The most coveted area of conquest is always the mind. Empires can lose land, but they control people's minds. Their domination is assured. Stuart Hall says that the field of culture is sort of a constant battlefield where no once for all victories are obtained, but where there are always strategic positions to be won and lost. He talks about the absolute. Basically, we're talking about, again, the mind being manipulated. And that way you get the mind, guess what? You control the people. All over the planet, this has happened. So as I travel, I get a chance to talk to people. Sometimes they don't know about their history and culture. As we share, we learn from one another. And then I got a chance to go to Africa, to Tanzania, visiting with Kai and his family. And then I was visiting with Brother Naim Akbar and my good soul sister, Linnell Dade. So we're visiting the family there in Tanzania, and they treated us royally. Took us around, showing us the landscape and the culture. Beautiful experience. That Tanzania has a very interesting background because they got their independence, and Julius Nyerere was the first president. Julius Nyerere was a education person. He wasn't a military man. So he was into education. So he was focused on making sure the people were having a sustenance. So he focused on socialism. So he had to get his support from people who were supporting socialism, like China and also like Russia. So Russia and China were not the enemies of those Africans. So as he is then getting that support, you have now sanctions against Tanzania. So the United States government, places like Europe, are sanctioning Tanzania, so they got to do what they have to do to survive. So they sought support from people like Mao Zedong, and also the assistance of people in Cuba and also in Russia. So Julius Nyerere is like the father of Tanzania. If it wasn't for him, there would not be this cohesiveness that's going on in the culture. Tanzania is pretty much a what is it? You call it a unitary presidential democratic republic. It's a multi-party system, and right now they are going through some challenges with right leadership, maybe giving away certain parts of the country to other countries. As we're traveling, looking at the places that some of the past warriors and leaders and military regimes would go to Tanzania and have places that they could study and focus on their military programs they need to do to free themselves. And in Kaole, this is one place that they used to be, and this is President Mugabe, Samara Machel. You see them images of them in this place called Kaole, which is in Bagamoyo, but they have now converted to like an agricultural center, College of Agriculture. But all those leaders from other countries came to Tanzania to figure out what we're going to do to get the oppressor off the neck. As we're traveling, you're seeing in the museums. Here you have a monument of people carrying ivory. So ivory was a big commodity that the Europeans were trying to get. And here you have a little memorial for the slaves. You have these captives, certainly the statues, but there's been a lot of honoring of the past, and went to a museum that dealt with studying that So as I got a chance to visit the landscape, I wanted to go visit the University of Dar es Salaam because that's where Walter Rodney also taught at the University of Dar es Salaam. So powerful program they had in June of 2023. Here is for the Julius Nyerere meeting with Kwame Nkrumah. We've gone over him before, but they're kind of like the fathers of the independence movement. So Kwame Nkrumah first, Ghana, 1957, and you had Julius Nyerere helping out with Tanzania. And again, collaborations, Pan-African collaboration is important. So I got a chance to visit the University of Dar es Salaam and try to walk the path that Walter Rodney had walked. Got a chance to go to a restaurant, Samaki, Fish and More. Oh my goodness, look at the title of some of these dishes. Steve Biko, Mishikaki, Sankara, like Thomas Sankara wings, Bob Marley pizza. You got a Malcolm X down here. You got Nkrumah lamb. You got Rambo, Lubumba beef ribs. Oh man, Putin strip loin. So at this restaurant, they got the images of some of the leaders up there. You got Malcolm X, you got Patrice Lumumba, you got Muammar Gaddafi, you got Jane Goodall, helped out with the guerrillas. I mean, they got people who all around the restaurant, revolutionary warriors. It's just good to eat in that environment. Had some good Ampiano music playing in the background. Just beautiful people. I mean, people not thinking about war everywhere we go. That's the European powers and these just the melanin recessive people trying to control resources to creating that. But beautiful experience. And then went to a resort called the Bakari Beach Resort. Go inside, my goodness, it's like first class. The rooms were like bungalows. The food was delicious. The pool area looked great, right there by the ocean. And this is controlled by the Libyan government. So right there in the front, they have the Tanzanian flag and the Libyan flag, and whoever wants to come, they'll fly that person's flag if they're coming there for a major conference. But they're in Tanzania, a place owned by another government, Libya. We know what happened when the United States assassinated Muammar Gaddafi, and then the whole Libyan government kind of was decimated. But they didn't give up their properties else in other places. But here you have it's a beautiful resort, but it's not being occupied. It's not being used. I'm just saying, you look at the realities of us having access to beautiful places. We do. We just don't take care of it. You wouldn't know this exists, perhaps, if I didn't show you. But this is right there in Tanzania by the beach, and there's plenty of places like this. I'm just showing an example of one that I went to. Beautiful. Bagamoyo is a place that you ever heard of David Livingston? This guy named Henry Morton Stanley was kind of looking for this guy who was supposedly is lost in Africa. Now he was helping to relieve those Africans from the Europeans' oppression. He was helping Africans resist. So David Livingston was a good guy. So they actually buried or had actually carried him from Bagamoyo to the coast to go back to Britain, where he's from. But when you hear the stories about Livingston, I presume, people are looking for this white guy that was there in Africa. So that's David Livingston. I'm showing that tree because there was a tree on the spot with the church where he was held for a while when they had his coffin. It's like a gigantic tree. I mean, baobab tree. I mean, just, my goodness, the roots. And you look at the history of what could have happened all those years as that tree is continually growing, the history of the people around in those areas. So this is actually in the place where the museum was. But David Livingston was a very important person to help free those Africans from the European oppression. Got a chance to go across on a ferry to Zanzibar. Beautiful place. Zanzibar, very clean, pretty much Muslim-oriented, Islamic focus. Beautiful beaches, beautiful sunset. There at the resort, it's like outside is a gigantic like monument constructed. And right there behind me, you see a Maasai warrior. The Maasai are all around as the security. So they got a little game going on. Just like the They like the fruit of Islam in fruit of Islam with the nation as they protect the nation of Islam. You got the Versailles warriors protecting the security at the hotels. So that's the museum I went to for the slave market was my guide, and just look at the places that were people were held for months in these little dungeons before they were now taken off to go collect ivory, to go to other places and be slaves in other countries. It's a sad scenario, but they're acknowledging it. At least they have a place where you can go see and study that. One of the bad people they talked about was this guy named Tip Tip, collaborated with the Europeans and also just defying his people. So Tip Tip was a collaborator in the slave trade, and it was kind of ruthless down there in that area of the world, the way the Arabs, the Muslims treated that slave trade down there was very decimated the people. Then I went to Cali, Colombia. Went there to do ayahuasca, and you see the landscape. I was in the Andes Mountains. So I've been to Cartagena, flew through Bolivia, no, Bogota, but I stayed here for a couple of days on a farm. And on the farm, my goodness, this is my view every morning from our window, seeing the Andes Mountains. Beautiful weather. Seeing the landscape, it's beautiful, like translucent, melanated leaves and this bright orange, it's like sunflower. And then look at these gigantic leaves. You start to visualize how dinosaurs ate. Dinosaurs can't eat little pieces of grass. They need big foliage, large forestry. And so here we have this these gigantic leaves. I mean, look at me in the size of it. You wrap me up in one of those leaves. You think about the movie Little Shop of Horrors when all the plants came alive and started eating people. Well, again, just looking at the landscape, very beautiful. Seeing African presence there, you see in Cali, there wasn't really a large African presence. You go to somewhere like Buenaventura. Buenaventura. I wanted to go there, didn't make it there, but I'll have a story to tell you about that later on in another video. But I got a chance to be drumming in the Andes Mountains, providing some rhythms for the crew. And also we did a sweat lodge. The native peoples of the land, I mean, they know how to work with the plant medicines. I mean, they live there. They know nature. And so all this war that's going on in the world, it's not war everywhere. It's peace most places. Here we have peace in Cali, Colombia. My travels to the world are also influenced by people like Ronoko Rashidi. May his soul rest in peace. He's passed and moved on, along with Ivan Van Sertima. May he rest in peace. But they've written books. They've shown their experiences as they've traveled, and they've given us knowledge. And if we don't go seek it ourselves, we'll never know it really exists. Because these books, can you find these books? Be nice if you can. But Ronoko has gone to Asia several times, and he wrote this book, or edited this book called African Presence in Early Asia. And so, let me go to Asia. I never wanted to go to Japan or China. Let me go to South Asia. So I wanted to go to Angkor Wat, but that's in Cambodia. Didn't get a chance to do that. Not enough time. But this is the temple in Angkor Wat. And on the temple, you got these instructions looking like the big nose, big lip African in that small part of the world. So all those people who were there early on are no longer there anymore. These little brown Negrito people that's talked about in history. So that's Angkor Wat in Cambodia. Needed a visa, too late for me to get it, so couldn't go there. So I went to Thailand. Saw a smaller version of Angkor Wat with the images that were there in a place called Ayutthaya. So Ayutthaya is a place there in Thailand, and I did a little tour. Here's the crew. Let's see, you got Philippines, you got Las Vegas, you got Argentina, Brazil, Hong Kong, and Italy all represented in this little picture here. But we're viewing the images. And you start walking around, because Thailand is pretty much Buddhist in its orientation. Seeing all the heads that were cut off cut off and taken. You probably see they're probably in a museum somewhere. Just like when you go to Africa, you see the tall monuments like created out of stone. They're now taken from Africa, and you're in Europe, Italy, France, places like that. Well, I'm sure these heads are taken somewhere else too. But beautiful construction. Construction looks like bricks. Bricks. I mean, it's just the detail to do that and to go that high. I'm not going that high. My goodness, look at the bricks. I'm not going that high. And you can't climb that today, but looking at the beauty of what they did in the past, another part of the world. I like these pictures here look at that, my film, my photography. Got two Buddhas there, got the sun beaming down on the Buddhas. You got here the two Buddhas here, the same Buddhas, but different image. You got a bird flying in the background. Maybe you don't like that, but I thought it was pretty good. And then you got a lying Buddha. So here's a Buddha, big construction, lying down. And then I took a picture with the sun beaming on the head, right behind the head as it's lying down. I think I'm going to go to film school. Oh, photography school. Create some images. Here's a pagoda where you got this gigantic. Now this is the pagoda. See how big that is? And see how big that is? This gigantic Buddha is in the middle of that pagoda. It looks like it's out of gold. Gigantic Buddha sitting in the middle of that pagoda. So the whole site we were at, this is one of the structures that was there. So you see these Buddhas all over the place. Some of the heads still there, but you see the peppercorn hair. That's like a statue was falling apart, and there's the head. That's peppercorn hair. That's not no melanin recessive people have hair like that. That's black people's hair. So you know Buddha was a black man. So those initial images that you see, sometimes they've been extracted and removed, so you would not know. Some of the noses have been cut off. Here's a Buddha's head that trapped in a tree. The roots kind of grow down. And they trap the Buddha head there in the bottom there. It says the head was once part of a sandstone Buddha image which fell off the main body into the ground. It was gradually trapped into the roots of a constantly growing Bodhi tree. B-O-D-I. B-O-D-H-I tree. So interesting to see the head stuck there at the bottom. And again, there's Ayutthaya. That's how you spell it right there. Then I traveled to Pattaya in Thailand, and it's like a beach area, beach town. Just thought it was interesting to see Kentucky Fried Chicken everywhere. Had 7-Eleven, Kentucky Fried Chicken, all the kind of Americanized places there. But I've never seen a Kentucky Fried Chicken looking like a Coliseum. Look at that. That's funny. Big. I didn't go in there, just took a picture. I'm not a fried chicken man. Beyond fried chicken, oh my goodness, it's pork heaven there. There's a truck. Hogs in that truck. Gigantic hogs. So that's pretty big. It's pork heaven there. They love eating that pork in Thailand. And then, on a sad note, color. Everybody's lightening their skin. Everybody likes their melanin. Now it's hot as heck in Thailand. In South Asia. It can burn you up. But most people want to be light, so you got all these kind of facilities set up for skin lightening programs, and unfortunately, that's how it is. So there in South Asia, I also went to Vietnam, and I went to Ho Chi Minh City, which is pretty much Saigon. So I traveled there, and the middle image here, I'm just showing you that pretty much there wasn't a lot of us, but I felt like a pink unicorn. There wasn't a lot of black people traveling, of course, going there in South Asia, traveling like myself, especially by myself. The young lady asked me, so who are you? I guess he was from Vietnam, because we're going to Vietnam, and she's just curious as to why I'm traveling. And then here you have this image. On that middle button is a picture of Prince. Now, there's not many black people on this trip, and not many black people in their respective world, but it's just showing you the power and influence that we can have on the world from what we do. So Prince was I mean, his soul rest in peace, artist, had an impact on people worldwide. And here you have a little white girl with Prince Button. That's how much she liked his music. But we have influence all over the world. That's flying over Saigon, seeing not as big of buildings like Thailand. Thailand, I felt like it was skyscraper heaven. Everywhere was a gigantic location, big edifice. And living in Thailand, I guess they grow and make the apartments and the places tall so they can kind of conserve space on the lower end. But I wouldn't want to live up that high. When I got to Vietnam, I met my good buddy Bobby Scott, and his beautiful wife Lynn. They treated me royally and took me to their home in Dong Tap. Now, I flew to Saigon, but we had to take another ride to Dong Tap to get to their home. I'm going to do a presentation on war later on. I'm going to talk about this Vietnam, but Dien Bien Phu. I remember Malcolm X talking about that. He says, "You remember what happened at Dien Bien Phu?" He talked about that in his The Battle of the Bullet lecture. But some history, we're going to talk about that later when we talk about the war. So here's just riding through the city. You see the landscape. I mean, Domino's Pizza, always show Kentucky Fried Chicken. Look at that Circle K. All those, capitalistic enterprises are in places like this. And again, they're into communism over there, not capitalism. It's a communistic country. Here they are on the motorcycles traveling through. You got the nightlife. I mean, it felt like Times Square in New York 3 times over. Just hustle and bustle, people traveling. Not a lot of lights, stoplights. You good luck getting through. But I saw absolutely no accidents. Come back to America, murder, violence, accidents. None of that here in Vietnam. Beautiful landscape, beautiful food, whatever you need. Beautiful people. Look at it, eating egg rolls, natural egg rolls, wrapped with lettuce and got the sauces. Everything's made natural. And it's got the jackfruit. Look how big that thing is. It's on the bottom of the tree. They got jackfruit up on the top of the tree like that. So Brother Bobby is a beautiful place. Access to all the food he needs. Living in the countryside in Vietnam. They treated me so beautifully. They're like, when you coming back? Go eat at a restaurant. Pretty much the food. I mean, pick your food right there. You want some fish? I got some other images showing you had turtle, they had octopus, they had all kinds of fish, shrimp. But beautiful place for eating. You see the landscape, nighttime, seems like it's lit up all the time, so they're always showing the brightness of their personalities. They got a chance to play some tennis. I like tennis. They welcome me and say, "Wait, man, you only staying 2 days or so. Come on back." So beautiful trip, beautiful people, great tennis partners. So I had a good time playing tennis in Vietnam. Hot. So they may play 5 in the morning or play late at night because it's too hot during the day. But they make it work. I became Uncle Tim, hanging out with little baby. Here's my buddy Bobby and his family, brother-in-law, wife, children in the family, his stepson. I mean, they treated me like, man, Uncle Tim, come on back and stay. So I'm saying when you travel the world, when people see you, not what they're seeing on TV, it's a whole different perspective. We have to get out and see the world. So while I was traveling from Dong Tap, going back to Saigon to catch my plane to go back home, can you believe that this bus right here, is where I'm able to lie down. That's me in my little cubicle. See, there's a little cubicle right here. There's 3 lanes, 1, 2, and 3. Somebody has a curtain blocking them. This person right here is in the middle, and there's an aisle. Top, there's more people lying down. So it's 1, 2 layers, 2 aisles, and here's me in my little cubicle. I've never seen anything like that. I don't think Greyhound in America does that, but I'm lounging in my trip, not sitting up, but chilling. Got a little TV right there. You got the little spaces where you can have your little food. Beautiful experience. Beautiful people. Beautiful people. So who was the real enemy? When we go over war and the next one we talk about Vietnam, who was the real enemy? Look at that. Black men should fight white racism, not Vietnamese freedom fighters. No Vietnamese ever called me a nigger. What? That's the truth. So we talk about how this war was constructed in the past and what it was really about. We'll have to talk about that next. And the lies that led up to the deaths that led to this war. This is now stuff that happened in the past that we now are finding about. In August 1964, the U.S. entered the Vietnam War based on reports of an unprovoked attack in the Gulf of Tonkin. Guess what? It was a lie. The president knew it was false. U.S. officials had distorted the truth about the Gulf of Tonkin incident. Guess what? What happened? We was talking about the weapons of mass destruction. Lies happen all the time, and people's lives are destroyed because of this. The truth about the Gulf of Tonkin incident for their own gains, and perhaps for Johnson's own political prospects. Look at the Bush family and what happened with that so-called war against Saddam Hussein. This lie jump-started a war that would claim 58,220 American and more than 3 million Vietnamese lives. This is true story of the Gulf of Tonkin incident. And again, it all started based on a lie. When do we ever wake up? That's why you have some people that woke up and said, look, I'm not going for this. I'm taking a stand. And one of them was Muhammad Ali. Y'all remember what he went through and what he said, what he did? I'm let you hear his words himself, what he had to say.
I'm saying you talking about me about some draft, and all of you white boys are breaking your neck to get to Switzerland and Canada and London. I'm not going to help nobody get something my Negroes don't have. If I'm going to die, I'll die now, right here fighting you. If I'm going to die, you my enemy. My enemy is the white people, not Vietcong's or Chinese or Japanese. You my opposer when I want freedom. You my opposer when I want justice. You my opposer when I want equality. You won't even stand up for me in America for my religious beliefs, and you want me to go somewhere and fight, but you won't even stand up for me here at home.
Did you hear the fire he was spitting? Did you hear the fire he was spitting? Unless you travel the world and know what's really happening, you take a stand to understand you could be manipulated, it's up to us to do that. So thank you for traveling with me on my short globe-trotting experience. That was for 2023. It's now 2024. Who knows what 2024 will present? But I'm just saying, thank you for traveling with me for this short presentation here. And I'll be back to talk about war. I think I'm going to talk about war today, war tomorrow. War is peace. All right. Stay strong. Peace and blessings to you.